Hello, Timeless fans. Welcome to part 2 of my finale recap. I'm already not saying it right. Alright, so a lot went down in episode 10, which was also the season finale of season 2. And I have a lot to talk about in this episode, so join me, won't you? And let's talk about all the crazy stuff that happened on Timeless. So, I'm going to start off talking about what happened to Gia. She was kidnapped by Jessica, who we learn is actually a part of Rittenhouse, which I theorized earlier on. Just because all they had to say was that Rittenhouse brought her back, and that kind of clues you in right there. So yeah, Gia's kidnapped, and the Timeless team is like very confused and frantic, especially Rufus, who's trying to get her back. And they all start fighting because Wyatt did have a suspicion that Jessica could be Rittenhouse, especially when she mentioned her brother still being alive. And in his timeline, her brother had died of leukemia when he was very young. So that kind of clues you in, because you know how Rittenhouse makes things happen. Like, they perform miracles, so people will join their group, and it's basically kind of a big clue that Jessica probably went the same route. So, yeah, there's this whole fight, especially between Wyatt and Rufus, and then Wyatt and Flynn, and Lucy actually ends up getting hurt in the middle of it. So it just, the whole team's just very falling apart in that moment. And meanwhile, we see what's happening with Gia. So they didn't actually travel back in time. Jessica took the time machine back to Rittenhouse headquarters in the present. And Gia is basically their prisoner because they want her to be a second pilot. Because as Carol is telling Emma, she and Keynes talked about it, and we actually saw this conversation in the previous episode, that they were talking about how Rittenhouse is about family and blood relations, and that Emma is none of that. So they're basically telling her, like, if you step out of line again, you're out. So Gia is basically a threat for Emma, because she's technically her replacement. So yeah, they're crazy. So Gia is locked in a room. She's given a pill, so she's a little, like, iffy. And amazingly, she manages to escape. And as she's escaping, she runs to the time machine. Emma is shooting at her, but Gia makes it into the time machine and she actually escapes. However, because of certain damage to the time machine from the gunshots, she isn't able to return to the bunker, and she ends up lost in time. So now the time team, having seen that she was trying to make a comeback, they don't know where she could be. They have no clue. So they decide to look through, like, everything that they have, find pictures of her in the past, and basically find a clue that she might have left behind. So Lucy immediately knows to go look at a history book, and there she finds a picture of Gia, who has left a clue, not in Chinese, but in Klingon. So she gives them the coordinates of the time machine, and she also tells them not to come, which we are wondering why that is. Like, why don't you want help? Why don't you want to be rescued? But they basically ignore that part of the message. So she is in 1888, Chinatown, San Francisco, and they manage to find the time machine, fix it up, and they all go back in time to rescue Gia, which, like I said, against her wishes. And now that I know why, makes it all the more reason that it's just so sad. Okay, no, I'm gonna get through this. So they make it to Chinatown. and they go to a shop where the photograph was taken of Gia, and there's a little girl there who is explaining to them that the picture was taken 3 years ago. So she's been there for 3 years, guys. 3 years. Like, she's almost kind of like, she's not a sleeper agent, but she's living like how the sleeper agents have been living. So, I can't imagine being, like, lost in time for 3 years. But, anyway. So, the little girl's telling them that she's not around anymore and that she left. Meanwhile, in the back room of the shop, we see Emma, Carol, Keynes, and Jessica. They're holding the family hostage in the back. And we know that something bad is about to go down. And Emma is basically ready to kill Lucy. However, Carol does not want her to kill her, and she stops her just as she pulls the trigger. And then a whole crazy scene ensues where Emma not only shoots Carol, but she also shoots Keynes, like he is instantly killed. His character is just out, which I thought was interesting because I thought he was being set up to be the big bad villain of the show. But no, he's just dead. And basically Emma and Jessica escape at that moment, and Lucy goes to aid her mother. She wants to help her because even though she's done all this crazy stuff to her, she still cares for her. And Flynn goes after Emma, and Wyatt goes after Jessica because he wants to know, like, why are you doing all of this? So once he catches up to Jessica, she tells him that Rittenhouse saved her brother. Hence, when Rittenhouse went back to the 1980s, that was one of the trips that they made that they noticed. But that had nothing to do with the episode. It was just a side note in the same episode that Jessica reappeared. So that is why they were there. They were there to cure her brother and to make a deal with her to join Rittenhouse. And it turns out that she actually is pregnant. She wasn't faking it. And she thinks that she still needs to be a part of Rittenhouse because she owes a lot to them. And she apologizes to Wyatt, but she's not going to go back with him. She is just officially Rittenhouse. So yeah, that was... I figured that was kind of what happened, but it was... I'm glad we at least got an explanation in this episode. So we didn't, like, wonder, like, is she just there, like, recently or whatever, but anyway. So back at the photo shop, Lucy's trying to talk to her mother, and her mother is telling her, just let me die, and she says that her only regret is that she didn't introduce Lucy to Rittenhouse sooner. Great. That's like your biggest regret of everything? And that actually affects Lucy. Like, she even tells Flynn later, like, that was her big regret. Like, that was it. I think she at least apologized about her sister, and who we still haven't a clue how she's going to come back. And I don't even know if they're going to bring her back. Like, even if we do get a season 3, I don't know if the plan is to bring her back soon or later. I don't know. We may never see Lucy's sister again. I don't even remember what she looks like. Anyway. So, with Carol gone and Keynes gone, Emma is basically the boss of Rittenhouse now, which is terrifying because she is just on a kill rampage. And she still wants to kill Lucy, basically, because she doesn't like that she's basically the Rittenhouse royalty, as they call her. And the company is basically hers, like Carol said, even though Lucy really wants no part of it, which is completely understandable at this point. Ugh. Family matters are crazy sometimes. Okay, so the next step is to find Gia, and the little girl at the shop actually knows where Gia is. She brings them to a saloon, and that is where Gia has been these past 3 years. And Gia is happy to see Rufus. However, she's also upset. Like, I told you guys not to come. Why did you come? And she then explains to Rufus that that is basically where his death is going to happen. Not like we saw it in the vision in, like, the past episode that we saw it. So nothing to do with the beach, nothing to do with cowboys. However, men are wearing spurs, kind of to resemble cowboys. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why the vision was so different. I don't know if it was meant to be like a symbolic thing, or her vision was like mixing with another vision. I'm still a little iffy on that part, but anyway, so she's telling him, like, if she leaves, that basically sets his death in motion, because he gets shot right as she's leaving with them. So that is the big issue that they're trying to figure out, and Lucy and everybody, like, they're trying to convince her, like, you still need to come home with us, we're not going to leave you here. And right as they're talking, guess who shows up? Emma and Jessica. And Emma is just on a shooting rampage, and she is threatening Lucy, and finally Wyatt and Flynn start to shoot at her, and there's this whole shootout scene, and it's crazy. So there is a goon that came with the team, Rittenhouse team, and he is the one who's going to kill Rufus that Gia saw in the vision. So just as he is about to kill Rufus, Gia manages to grab a gun and kills him. So Rufus is saved. We think, okay, she changed history, that's great. Unfortunately. I hate to say unfortunately, but there's more to it. So just as they're leaving the saloon, Emma and Jessica are still there, and Emma is still shooting at them. She hits Flynn, like, in the shoulder, but she also hits Rufus. I think it was in the worst place you could be shot. And she kills him. I was surprised that it happened that way, and I didn't think it was going to be Emma who killed him. Oh, man. Like, the whole scene was so sad because he was such a great character, and Gia was just trying to do nothing but prevent his death, and it still happened, and it just broke my heart to see how sad she was. And just to see him go like that, it was so sad. So this whole scene, it sends Lucy into a rampage. She goes after Emma with a gun, and she chases her down, and she's shooting at her, but, like, right as she is about to shoot her in the head, like, she's going on about how she has ruined her life, how she's taken away people from her, and she's just having this mental breakdown, basically, which is so understandable at this point. And just as she's about to shoot Emma in the head, which is something Lucy really doesn't like to do, she doesn't like to kill people, but at this point she feels like she has no choice. She's about to shoot her, gun is empty. So Emma gets the upper hand, and she begins punching Lucy, and she's about to knock her unconscious, but then Flynn thankfully comes to the rescue, and Emma runs off. And Lucy's, like, so upset at this point, and he's holding her in his arms, and oh my god, that was, like, out of all this craziness, that was actually a really sweet scene. Oh man, but just everything that they've been through is so heartbreaking. And you can imagine, like, especially how Lucy and Wyatt feel about Rufus's death. Because, like, they were the dream team, the three of them. And then just to lose that member of their team. It's just so sad. Alright, so they return back to the time, and Agent Christopher and Mason are happy to see that Gia's alive, and they assume that everything's okay. But then they ask where Rufus is, and by everybody's expressions, they can tell something is wrong. So they tell them that he was killed, and they had to leave him in the past. And Gia's so mad at Mason, especially because she told them not to come back for her, and she kind of blames them for setting it all, like, basically setting off the vision. And she's just having this breakdown, and she runs off. Mason eventually goes and finds her, and he tries to console her, and she tells him, like, all the sad stuff, like how they had to leave Rufus in the past, and there's nobody there with him, and nobody knows who he is, and just the way she was listing all these things, it was so, like, such a reminder that when you're lost in time, like, everything is just, you're just not there anymore. It's just, I don't even know exactly what I'm saying, but, like, this whole scene was just so sad, especially between her and Mason, and he comforts her, and they're both crying at this point, because they lost somebody who was he was such a big part of their lives, and, like, even Rufus was a man of reason, and, like, even when he was having his moments with the whole vision, he was still there for everybody else. And just to see him, like, out of their lives is so sad. I need to take a breather. So much happened in this episode. It was just, like I said, it was shocking. And Lucy's dealing with a lot too. Her mother's death, and especially her mother's last wish. And also Rufus's death has also affected her because, like I said, she, Wyatt, and Rufus were the original team, and, like, she's lost so much at this point. And Lucy, I think, like, Lucy and Rufus, I think, had it the hardest this season. But Lucy's, like, still living with this pain, and she's suffering with the fact that she doesn't have family anymore, and she still doesn't know if she's going to get her sister back. And she knows that there's somebody out there who's so willing to kill her, and she just doesn't know what's going to happen. And then Wyatt actually comes in, and he tries to apologize about everything, and he actually tells her that he loves her, which was sweet. I feel like it was a little much considering he just learned about Jessica. But still, it was heartfelt. And Flynn was actually kind of watching them from the side, so you're thinking, it's still the love triangle. And I honestly don't know who I want Lucy to end up with at this point. Like, Flynn's actually surprised me. I thought he was gonna trick them or something, or... because he still hasn't gotten his family back, and he was supposed to... I think... didn't he get the information last season about how to bring them back? I could have sworn that's what happened in the finale before he got arrested, but... it's been a while, I haven't seen that. Anyway. So... yeah, we'll see what happens if we get a season 3 with that. So just as White is comforting Lucy, we hear a noise, and we see that a second time machine appears out of nowhere, and everybody's wondering, like, how on earth that is there. And the door opens, and you won't believe who comes out. Future Lucy and future Wyatt. And that was basically a shocker, because they're not supposed to be able to travel back to their own time. So we're trying to figure out how on earth this is possible. And just before the episode ends, Lucy and Wyatt, or future Lucy and Wyatt, say, what are you guys waiting for? Do you want to get Rufus back or what? And it ends there. So, there's definitely a plan to bring Rufus back. I don't think they would tease that and not bring him back. However, if we don't get a season 3, we don't get Rufus back. He stays dead, which that would really suck. Because, like, there's this whole plan to bring him back. And it doesn't happen just because they don't get renewed. I'm gonna hope for the best, guys. Like, we still haven't heard anything about it. And I don't know when we are going to. But I really hope NBC renews the show. It's amazing. Like, there are times when there are some things left unanswered, little plot holes here and there, but what show doesn't have that? And, like, this show is really tricky to write. Like, imagine having to figure out the dialect of every single time period that they travel back to, the language that they used, and to try to figure out a scenario within history where history is about to be changed, but they need to put it back in place. That is not an easy task. That takes a lot of talent to write that. So I really commend the writers of this show. I commend all the actors in the show because they are phenomenal. And I commend the show as a whole because it is just incredible. And a lot of time travel shows don't always get it right, but there's a couple that do. So, seriously, if you guys know friends that are interested in Timeless but haven't watched it, tell them to stream it online or watch reruns somehow. Just, we need to get views. And I know there was a little bit of an underwhelming rating last night for the finale. So if people could watch reruns, watch the streaming online, that would be very helpful to the show. Because I think we need a season 3 of this show. This show is incredible. And I know I'm not alone. Because even there's stars that are protesting, like, if Timeless is cancelled, we're going to be mad. So, NBC, you have an option here. There will be some angry fans if you guys do not renew the show. So, please, consider it at least. The show is amazing, there's a lot to be resolved, and I'm ready. I'm ready for a season 3. So, I'm gonna keep hoping. A miracle happened last season where it was cancelled, but then renewed. I hope it happens again, where it is renewed. So, fingers crossed, guys. So yeah, if you guys, sorry, I was getting serious there. If you guys want to talk about the show, because I know a lot happened, I may have even left a little details out, but I was just trying to give, like, the basic idea. If you guys want to talk about anything, you can definitely comment, and we'll definitely chat about it. And just give me your theories, like, if a season 3 does happen, what do you guys want to see, and where do you think the show will go? How did future Lucy and Wyatt show up there? How did that rule change? We don't know. So yeah, if you guys want to share some theories with me, that would be great. So yeah, I will definitely hope that we get a season 3. I don't want this to be the last time I talk about Timeless, because I actually do enjoy doing these videos. It's fun to talk about all the history, and, like, it's fun to see where the show goes. And I just don't want these to end. Like, the show just deserves so much more. So hopefully this isn't my final Timeless video. I hope I get to do season 3 videos and much more. Alright, guys. like I said, save Timeless, go forth, conquer, and just remember what the show has taught us, that history cannot be trusted. That's basically the rule here, isn't it? Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed the finale. I hope you enjoyed season 2, Timeless as a whole, and I will hopefully see you guys again soon. I will do more videos for other shows, but for Timeless it's unknown right now, but I'm gonna hope. Alright guys, goodbye and good night, good day. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.